Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to Absolutely. My name's Hassan, this is Neb, and today we're going to be talking about the brand new Superman Legacy casting by James Gunn. We got a couple of titular characters, including Guy Gardner, Guy Gardner, Metamorpho, and Hawkgirl. I think I was saying Hawkgirl at the tip of my tongue, and I said Hal Jordan instead, because maybe Hal Jordan should be the one casting this movie instead. Who knows? But I'm joined here by Neb, and we're sponsored by Into the AM. Use code COMICS at checkout for 10% off. That actually might be code absolutely at checkout. I'm going to get in trouble for not knowing this by now, and Platt, our editor, will happily correct it right here on screen. Also, Mr. Terrific was announced. Jeez, I'm just off my game today. Neb, take the wheel, please.
Yeah, no problem. So, because the entire industry is going on strike, they had to get all of their news out at the same time to avoid any issues later down the line, because they can't do promos right now.
Oh my God, wait, I didn't know that was why. I just assumed it was
Yeah,
just an announcement day.
yeah, that's why there's been tons of news the past day or two out. So now that they're in strike, they can't release news like this anymore, as far as I'm aware. But yeah, so within the same day, it was announced that Isabella Merced was Hawkgirl, and Eddie Gathity was Mr. Terrific, and Nathan Fillion was Guy Gardner. And it's all three of them at once, and I don't think
Victor
anybody
Zaz.
expected that.
Sorry, I don't
Right.
even know the actor's name, but I'm calling him Victor Zaz as Metamorpho.
Yeah.
But who did he play other than Victor? Or what's the actor's
So
name?
his name is Anthony Terrigen, and then he was also the Mist in the third episode of The Flash. So this is going to be his third DC character. And
Oh yeah,
he's
God,
really
man,
good at playing the weird characters, actually.
he's incredible. I'm not sure if he has. I have a friend who looks so much like him, and he's somebody with alopecia, and I always wondered if he has that because he doesn't have eyebrows either, right?
Yeah, he does.
Okay, awesome. I didn't want to throw that out there and throw some, Will Smith, Jada Pinkett Smith shade and alopecia, but he looks incredible. He looks super menacing and freaky in a lot of roles, and he's terrifying. He is the definitive Victor Zaz to me. I don't know why, but like every time I read the comics, I'm thinking of this guy. So that's
No,
super
he was
exciting.
perfect in Gotham.
I know people want us to talk about Guy Gardner, so I'll beat around the bush and we'll talk about him towards the middle. But I think, you know, you're probably confused as to why Metamorpho's cast. I definitely feel that, but James Gunn's not known for for having mainstreamified, super popular characters. He's known for taking characters on the fringes of comic books and society and like bringing them into the mainstream. The Guardians were not a name brand band of superheroes until Gunn took over. So just like remembering that as we're moving through it. But I'm excited. If you guys didn't see, he was a character on Young Justice Outsiders. That's the third season of it, the original HBO Max season. And he's not a big character. He's mainly there just for the cover art, but he has a cool power set. He has one really cool monologue that explains a lot of why he is the way he is and how he is, and that's really cool. And yeah, I mean, the character design's fun. He's a fun character. He's very entertaining, to say the least. But yeah, that's him. And then Hawkgirl. The actress looks great. She looks incredible for the role. Truly.
Yeah, I haven't watched it since it came out, but she was Dora in the live action Dora the Explorer movie.
Oh my
and
God.
she was
Okay,
pretty.
so that's so funny because I didn't put two and two together, but there was people in my timeline trashing Dora the Explorer, and I was like, this is a weird thing to care about in 2023. I guess that's
Right.
why that was happening.
I saw tons of that and I was confused. I was like, oh yeah, it's her. Yeah,
Well, that's
she
funny
did
because
great.
Dora the Explorer made more money than most DC projects has. So
Exactly. Yeah. So we can
deal
only
with,
go up from here.
truly, we can only
But
go up from here.
yeah, so people were confused by all these announcements because honestly, it sounded a little bit like Black Adam, where you had the main hero and then these three other heroes that were supposed to show up, and everybody was confused on what the movie was even going to be. And the following day, that's when Metamorpho was announced. So since then, Gunn has sort of said it's because Superman has to deal with, just the Daily Planet and his life there, and Lois Lane and all those people, while also dealing with the other half, which is the superhero community. Just all the metahumans who he has to consult with and things like that.
I love the
And
idea of that. I mean, I'm
yeah,
so on board for the idea of like a Justice League Unlimited style Superman. You know, like one that is. Uh, we see him in the Adventures of Superman with Lois and Jimmy and Perry White and all of that, and then you get to see him interact with like the Question and other like smaller heroes and cooler scales, and I think that's like a very fun way to have those dynamics. Um,
yeah, I
that's
sort
super
of
fun.
thought of it like, you know, in the Death of Superman story or in the animated movie, the new one, it was interesting how, you know, Doomsday was in the city and Superman wasn't there the whole time. So, you know, randomly like Hawkman would show up, right? And he would get his ass beat because he's Hawkman, but he would do his best. And, you know, all these heroes would just show up to try and take care of it. And that's sort of how I imagine it's going to be in the movie, maybe, where, you know, it's just all these superheroes already exist and they're going to deal with the threat just like Superman would or try to. So it just feels more realistic for what the world should be and more lived in because by this point, yeah, tons of superheroes would already exist. You know, like with Batman Brave and the Bold in the timeline, it would imply that Batman's already been doing stuff for however long in this world. There's already going to be several Robins that exist, you know. So yeah, it was a really nice surprise to get all like four of these like just crazy castings out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Um, and
Um,
especially I
especially
love Mr. Terrific, so I'm
oh my
excited to see
gosh!
that.
And the casting, if I'm not mistaken, is that not Darwin from X-Men First
Yeah,
Class?
infamously, yeah, that's Darwin.
Wow.
He finally gets to get his redemption in a comic book movie. Poor guy.
It's about time. That
Yeah,
is to this day my only issue with an otherwise to me one of my favorite movies ever. One of the more perfect movies of my time watching superhero stuff. I think that it was like I watched it a little bit later than when it came out. I think it was in 2014, and I was just immediately wrapped up in how good I thought it was. I thought X Men First Class was so good. And I was so confused because I didn't care to see it in theaters because I already had X Men fatigue at that point. And then I was like, oh my God, why didn't I see this in theaters? This is so much better than anything they'd put out before. And then Brian Singer and them also thought that because then they looped it in with Days of Future Past with the old stuff and the
right.
new stuff. And then everything became aggressively middle to lower tier for the rest of the time that existed. But yeah, killing him was crazy because I also thought the actor was incredible and he was really fun and
He was so
charismatic in
good.
his like scene.
Yeah, and so obviously great for him all this time later. I know other people remember him from he was the character in the Twilight movies as well, so I saw a lot of people joking about that, which was funny.
What? Who is he in
And
Twilight?
I don't remember his name, but yeah, he was just one of the vampires. I swear I've only seen that big fight scene where they fight in that snowy place and they all get killed. So I wouldn't know, but yeah, it's nice that he gets like a great role like this after all this time.
Yeah, and
But
Mr. Terrific's a really fun character. Echo Kellum did him, um, eh,
yeah,
depending on if you like his interpretation or not. He played it. I think he played him pretty fun on Arrow,
right.
fast and loose. But maybe we're due for a comic book adaptation of Mr. Terrific. And
Yeah, and it
um,
wasn't necessarily Echo Callum's fault either. You know, they were doing a lot of stuff with that character, and it didn't necessarily work out until like the episode where he left the show, which is really unfortunate. But
yeah,
they
he was
kind of
actually.
did. Um, all things considered, they did his costume as well as it could be done. I was surprised by that. He looked pretty bad initially, but by the end of his time on Arrow, he had a pretty good-looking like T mask on his face, which is really
Absolutely.
hard to pull off because that's just it's a really strange design in
It's a
comics
square
already.
eye mask and a Hitler mustache over your lips. It's
Right.
dangerous to say the least, but
It is
it looked
strange.
surprisingly good on him.
But yeah, and then because besides that, he just wears a jacket, right? So,
Yeah.
um, but yeah, they did pull it off, so they can definitely just do it again easily on this. And then people pointed out that because he's doing Mr. Terrific and Metamorpho, that James is probably setting up the team, the Terrifics from the comics, and they're relatively new because I think they were a rebirth thing. Actually, I think they were from 2018, where it's basically DC made their own equivalent of the Fantastic Four because they were struggling in the comics at the time. It was their whole initiative, the New Age of Heroes, where they made a bunch of characters who were supposed to sort of like be Marvel characters that were going through legal troubles, and they were taking advantage of that. So you had like Sideways, who was Spider Man, and you had some others that I'm forgetting right now. But
I
yeah,
always thought Sideways was such a fun character, and
oh, he is so cool.
somebody threw out a joke that like I bet James Gunn wants Sideways in the Batman movie, LLL, and it's just like I can't deal with comic book Twitter anymore because I'm
Nope.
just excited about this movie. I don't have beef with James Gunn like society demands that I need to. I think he's a good director, and I'm excited to see what he does. And then if he makes bad stuff, I'm gonna hate him. I will. I mean, hate's a strong word because I'm a grown man and I'm not gonna be that emotional about it anymore.
We are grown adults.
I can hate. I'll hate the guy who made the Flash TV show because that's different. He crapped on my childhood. James is gonna
Exactly.
crap on something that just doesn't exist right now, anyways. So, and that's if he does. And I don't think he has yet to do anything to indicate to me that he's not going to do it. And here's the reason I'm bringing this up now. Why are people angry about this casting, Neb? Well, let's talk about that because
Right.
Nathan Fillion, James Gunn's friend, who has been in every James Gunn project, but is also an actor, a talented one at that, a popular one at that, relatively speaking. He's not maybe doing big blockbuster hits other than Marvel stuff, and he's doing that through James, but he's been acting for a long time. He was in Firefly and Serenity. He played Hermes in the original box office flop, the second Percy Jackson movie. I mean, he's in a lot of different roles. I've recently seen him in a lot of TV appearances, both on Brooklyn Nine-Nine and Modern Family, both playing a character on TV who plays a character on TV. In Modern Family, he was the weatherman, and in Brooklyn Nine-Nine, he played a detective on television. Um, so James gonna cast Nathan Fillion, and what's the Twitter discourse looking like? Neb, please share.
Yeah. First of all, it's a surprise for a lot of people because people don't realize that Guy Gardner actually has fans, but no, he does. He's,
I
you
love Guy
know,
Gardner, man. Guy's
I think he's
hilarious.
great. Yeah. I was never that big on him before, but I saw like my husband's passion for the character to make me think, okay, there's something about Guy that resonates with a lot of people. So I'm just, and then I read the entire Green Lantern run by Jeff Johns, and I get to see like how he's different from the other main human lanterns, and yeah, he's just really fun. But I believe the feedback on this casting is just such a mess because even though, I think Nathan Fillion is fine as an actor. I also watched like Firefly and Serenity growing up, and like I'd say he's like he's more than fine. He's pretty good. It's just that it's like you said, he's James Gunn's friend, and people have been getting upset at James lately for always casting his friends in everything and just like putting his wife in every project and just that whole sequence in Guardians of the Galaxy 3, which is basically all of his friends on that ship together. And I can see why people might get annoyed about that, in particular with Nathan Fillion, because I believe he's either 60 years old or almost pushing that. I'm not positive, but it's because Guy Gardner he's like maybe like 40 in the comics at most,
Yeah.
and like not even that, he's probably like mid 30s. So he's casting someone much older than that when he's said the reason is basically because James wanted to put his friend in that like silly bold cut that he has in the comics. And yeah, so people think that it's just showing that he doesn't necessarily have like the character's best interest at heart, which I honestly like. I get it. I'll just have to wait and see in the movie.
I mean, yeah, that's the thing. It's like you literally do not know that unless you see it. Everybody hated Ben Affleck as Batman. Maybe one of the definitive Batman with easily the definitive costume. Period. Point blank. I'll say it out loud. That thing looks perfect.
Right.
Yeah, there's a bunch of them, but you guys know when I'm saying Ben Affleck's perfect, so you know what I'm talking about. People hated Robert Pattinson as Batman, and now they talk about it like it's a cult classic, and they're obsessed with it. And I still need to see it. Actually, sorry guys.
Oh my god.
I'm gonna get fired from this channel because I haven't seen Logan and I haven't seen that. I haven't seen that for different reasons and have not seen Logan. I just wasn't in town when that movie came out, and I always wanted to see it in theaters, and because that's just been put on the back burner. But I've actually received little to no spoilers, so I'm gonna see that eventually.
Well, you definitely left out. Yeah. Get
But
on
yeah,
that.
people are being very, very, very severe and critical because Guardians of the Galaxy 3, yeah, he had cameos, but they were just actors playing like they're playing characters, and they did well. And everyone craps on James Gunn's wife being in everything. Do you not realize how talented she is and how she was an actor before she married James Gunn as well? Like, she's talented. She's fun as Harcourt in DC. I thought she was hilarious in Guardians 3 because she gets shot and her delivery is incredible, where she just starts screaming and wailing. That was super funny. And Nathan Fillion was hilarious in that too. And I always get excited to see Nathan Fillion and stuff because I just have like an old school attraction to just like that. He reminds me of like an older echelon of movies and TV that I really liked and I'm
Yeah,
nostalgic for.
he's sort of like just a few years. I think of him similarly to Brandon Fraser in my head a bit, where
Yeah.
they're not necessarily the same. I think it's because Nathan Fillion's character in Firefly is sort of inspired by Brandon Fraser's in The Mummy, or sort of that like it became like the Uncharted archetype later on. But yeah, and it was sort of funny because he's played Hal Jordan in multiple animated projects, maybe Dames as well. I'm not positive, but he was
Nathan
always.
Fillion has.
Yes, and he was
Wow.
always a big fan cast for Hal Jordan specifically. So it's extremely funny that all these years later he just cast as Guy Gardner instead. I think yeah, he was genuinely like the number one Hal Jordan casting. Whenever you'd search it up, it was always Nathan Fillion because he just has that energy about him, and yeah. So now he's just Guy Gardner instead. It was a fate worse than death, maybe. We'll see.
That's it's so frustrating. And here's why I prefer him. Some people are saying they'd rather have him be Hal. I prefer him as Guy because Hal is a titular green. And this is not to crap on Guy Gardner fans because I'm not going to say I am a Guy Gardner fan. I've always found him a little bit annoying. I found him really fun in certain stories because he's annoying. That's almost like his superpower is to kind of irritate you
Exactly.
a bit. Um, but I specifically watched the Green Lantern the animated series in the last 4 or 5 months, I think. So I that was my first time watching that, which is crazy because it's like roped in with Young Justice and that whole block, and everybody knows how I feel about Young Justice. But and Guy Gardner was also a big part of the last season of Young Justice. He was a non-speaking character in the first season, and I think maybe one line in the second season, and into the third and fourth, he had a lot of dialogue, and he was really funny. Um, I think I'd rather have him do this than a Kyle Rayner and this Kyle Rayner's even more niche. But I really like Kyle Rayner, and he's never got an adaptation. But I'd rather them go this route than go the Hal Jordan, John Stewart, Kyle Rayner route. Let's just do a really cool old Guy Gardner and rock with it. Sometimes characters are different ages, and it's fine. Hugh Jackman was tall, and guess what? We lived. In fact, we
Right.
lived well. He's been
Hugh Jackman
Wolverine
is
11
such
times.
he's such an anomaly that the character of Wolverine was adjusted to be more like Hugh Jackman in the comics just because he was like that beloved, which I think is very funny
And
and
that's
like
what
hard to
Robert
pull
Downey
off these
Jr.
days.
did for he did for Iron Man. Same
Exactly.
deal of like characters become more and more. He was the soft inspiration for the character in the first place, and then hard inspiration after that. Samuel Jackson redefined Nick Fury. Maybe Nathan Fillion to redefine Guy Gardner. And I know there are Guy Gardner fans, but I haven't necessarily read anything as of late that was particularly intriguing of Mr. Gardner. He's more. I liked his Red Lantern stuff a good bit, but feel like there's
He's
always
currently in
limits.
the backup story of the new Green Lantern comic. And yeah, so he's never. You mentioned Kyle Rayner, which I thought was funny because Kyle has had even less luck when it comes to adaptations than Guy has, which is saying so much. So
Kyle's
done.
hasn't even been in Young Justice.
Nope.
Do you know what
He
the D
hasn't been
list, Z list
anything.
characters Greg pulls out of the toy box for Young Justice, and he hasn't pulled Kyle?
Right. It's he
Um,
hates Kyle in particular. It's so funny to me.
does he actually?
No. It's just
Thank God.
maybe it's
No,
so
because
odd he never shows
I
up. He
imagine he
hasn't
would
been in
have.
an animated adaptation in so long.
Oh my God, he hasn't, and he's fun because like I was always a fan of the White Lantern story arc stuff. I know a lot of that's controversial, and some people really didn't like it, but I was a fan of it.
Yeah, it was neat.
I mean, guys, my intro for a lot of you, I don't know how many of you are comic story viewers first and then just joined Absolutely later or just fresh Absolutely viewers, because I hear we have those as well. But I grew up watching a lot of comic story, and the very first thing I watched was the Brightest Day coverage. All of those videos is what really got me into comics initially in the first place, and then eventually got me hired here. So I really have a soft spot for these characters, and I'm excited to see where they're headed with James Gunn and the casting. I think again, James, we got to cut the guy some gosh darn slack at this point. Stop being mad at announcements. You're not a Hollywood executive or a film writer, unless you are, and then maybe I'll take more stock in your opinion, and we should just let this play out, man.
Definitely.
He might be the definitive version of the character in a really cool way, and if he's not, don't forget, DC is a multiverse. And if James Gunn's doing what I hope James Gunn is doing in this universe, he's leaning into the fact that they have a multiverse, which is kind of frustrating because DC's getting to the multiverse the latest and everyone has multiversal fatigue, which is so annoying because DC is so cool when it comes to multiversal storylines. But like, hey, let's say we don't like Nathan Fillion. We get to do the incredible thing, which is kill this Nathan Fillion Guy Gardner off, right? And then down the road, somebody else with some other multiverse storyline can use a different actor to play Guy Gardner, and then oh my God, crisis! This was actually our Guy Gardner from the start. Boom, bam. I'm writing your movies for you guys. Infinite retcon capabilities.
It was actually, I don't know if you remember, because they were making that Green Lanterns TV show for years and years. They could never get it off the ground.
Oh my God, they
And
had somebody cast.
yeah,
Yeah.
they did. Yeah, they cast Finn Whitrock as Guy Gardner. And he was talking about it for like a few years just because that series was in development hell. And he was like, yeah, I think the show's going to be like this and that. And he's talking about like what his costume might be like. Poor guy. He just got like screwed out by Warner Brothers like 17 other actors did at once. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
I
and I
think
also have to say, I'm so tired of the narrative that like James Gunn just screwed this guy. You guys don't understand how casting works and
no.
contracts works. Guaranteed, if he was casted for that show, he was not even an open available casting for this one. That's how that works. There's like weird contractual issues with a lot of that, right? Because he might have
Yeah,
been
and
signed to a TV show deal, and that is not a movie deal. There's so many different intricacies of it, and also James Gunn isn't replacing anybody, or he's casting a new universe. Like, what's it? David is not a replacement for Henry Cavill. Henry Cavill is a guy who played Superman for 10 years, played it varying degrees of 10 years, wasn't there very often, and now he is not Superman anymore. Just like, Tobey Maguire is not Spider-Man and Andrew Garfield is not Spider-Man. You know what I mean? Like it's not this hateful thing that James Gunn was like, he hated Henry Cavill. And then he hired a guy who looked like Henry Cavill. And he said he wanted a younger Superman, but here he is having a 30-year-old Superman with a 40-year-old Guy Gardner. Take a breath, guys. Let James Gunn cook. Chef's in the kitchen. Let him cook. If you don't like his dinner, send it back to the restaurant. Until then, let Chef cook.
I think people will be really surprised when it gets going because he seems like the kind of guy to me where he's casting all these characters in the first place. So when when you're more of a casual DC fan, you think of like Green Lantern is Hal Jordan and the Flash is Barry Allen, right? And when you get more into the fandom and everything, that's when you start seeing people saying like, "Oh, the best Flash is actually Wally West," or "The best Green Lantern is Tyler Rayner," and that goes for like a few other characters where it's like these ones that you may not have heard of as much, but have long histories in the comics and have tons of fans. James seems like that kind of guy, where like I fully expect when the Flash is in the DCU, it's probably going to be Wally West instead, and Tyler Rayner is probably gonna be a big character. He seems like that guy who grew up on all these things and knows that and wants to introduce all of them to the general public, which I think is nice.
Well, in controversial take, I think I'd rather have, and this is crazy because I like Wally so much more, but I'd rather have Barry because I want Wally to be introduced as Kid Flash really badly, or at the very least discussed as that. Because one of my favorite things in comics is always going to be Wally's relationship with the Titans, specifically Dick Grayson, and I think it would be like a travesty to never include that. Um, Especially because we're getting an older Batman with a Robin already, with a Damian Wayne Robin, so we know Dick
Exactly.
Grayson's bouncing around. So you could jump to like not a Kid Flash, but like an upper teenage Kid Flash, right into a Crisis movie, which is maybe we could have already done that. Am I crazy? Maybe
Definitely could have.
we
But
could have already
I can
done it.
see it as like a Justice League Mortal situation where that movie never got made, but the idea was Barry was the Flash in that movie and he died in the end of the movie. So then that set up Wally West to be the Flash later on in that universe that never happened. So
Yeah,
I
that's
think
my dream.
that'll work fine.
It's my dream because like gosh, I want it to be a really, really incredible Barry Allen, one that isn't a controversial actor for any reason, shape, or form, and isn't telling a bad story. That way we can kill him off. We can have Wally take up the mantle, and then we can bring him back, like bring him back down the road and put guys, you don't understand how much I want to see Wally's rebirth suit in live action. I don't know if it works, but gosh darn it, if that's
Oh, it
not the
totally
most
works.
beautiful suit that has ever existed to me personally. I always say that because these comic sections seems to really, really miss when I say the words my opinion, how I feel, and they like to attack me for who I am and how I look. So
Of
I'm just
course.
saying that, absolutely, audience. Just yeah, that's how I feel. I think it's the coolest costume ever. But I'm excited for James Gunn's castings. I think that I didn't see anything that made me do a double take and get stressed out so far. It's just a
Yeah.
movie
Nothing
that
too crazy, no. And
I don't have
we
anything
didn't
to
talk
post
about
judgment
her
on.
much, but I do appreciate Hawkgirl's casting a lot, just because Hawkgirl's always been a very underappreciated character in the Justice League. But you know, she was in the cartoon with everybody else, and she feels kind of like the forgotten one a lot of the time. So yeah, it's just cool to see Hawkgirl back in prominence, and she has a new comic coming out soon, just a new #1. I think it might be either this month or next month. But yeah, so that's cool.
It's fantastic, and we had her in Flash, um, and she was very underutilized on Flash and Legends of Tomorrow, but she's actually a pretty fantastic. I thought that version of Kendra was pretty fun in many ways. She was really fun on Legends with her little relationship with Ray Palmer and her dynamic with her Hawk. But it's exciting to get a new one. Hopefully, we're not getting another Hawkman anytime soon, just because we did we not just bark
Right.
up that tree? Did we not just
Poor
we
guy.
didn't just cook in that kitchen?
He
Huh?
played him amazingly as well. Like one of the most comic accurate like portrayals I've seen. Just because Hawkman is just like that in the comics. But yeah, that's unfortunate. So we'll see if he comes back or not. But
Yeah.
either way,
Also, let
it's just
me
cool.
let me very clearly imply I didn't see that movie. Don't get mad at me. I didn't see it.
What movies have you seen, Hassan?
Here's the thing. Everything else but those three.
That's so funny.
Every single other one but the Batman, and that's not for any reason other than I want to watch it with my other friends who haven't watched it, and we want to get together and make like I want to make a big thing of it. Logan, which is my rainy day movie that people give me a lot of crap for, that I will be watching soon because Hugh Jackman's coming back. I knew Logan was perfect, so I just wanted to keep it in my pocket of like, this is the perfect superhero movie for me to pull out one day, and it's an actor that I adore in a character role that I adore. Um, so that's why I haven't seen Logan. And then I'm not going to watch Black Adam because it looked genuinely horrible. Oh wait, no, I didn't watch Flash either. Um, I don't
I
feel like
think
watching things that are. I'll watch them now that they're streaming. I'm not going to watch Black Adam ever, but I'll watch Flash now that it's streaming.
I
So
think Black Adam is one of those movies where you just watch the fight scenes on YouTube in those like 4K upscaled videos, and then you have fun with that. And then
yeah,
yeah, I mean, I had
which I'll
fun
do
watching
that.
the
I'll
movie, but
happily do
yeah,
that. I'll happily do that. And
the
that's
Flash is
just a
probably another
thing
one
that
of
I
those.
do that I'm not endorsing doing or saying, hey, here's how the thing. It's just how I choose to live my life. Sorry, guys, I'm being very defensive of the comments here today because whenever it comes to James Gunn topic, we always get some aggressors over here in the chat. But hey, that's the video. James Gunn's casting crazy things right now. And until then, we'll be here with you, probably sitting for a couple years till we actually get any of this stuff because the as of filming this video, the actors have got on strike as well as the writers. So it's going to be some times when we see some traction in Hollywood. But I'm Hassan. This is Neb. This has been Absolutely, and we'll see you guys next time.